What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to make polycarbonate lids for your aquarium. Alright, so why do you want polycarbonate lids for your aquarium over purchasing a glass one? They are cheaper to make if you are capable of making them in bulk. If you need multiple lids made, it's a lot cheaper than buying them. If you just need one lid made for like a 20-gallon, it's about the same price, but it's much better than a glass one. Well, let me show you why. Over here I have a glass lid on this 20-gallon long, and as you can see, it only goes about 2 inches from the back, and you have this big opening in the back here. So what's going to happen with that is you're going to lose a lot of heat out of your aquarium if you're running a heater. On that tank I don't need heat because they have an axolotl. They want cold water. So what a lot of companies do to counteract having that gap in the back is they have this little strip of plastic. I had one here somewhere, I don't know where it went, but they have a little strip of plastic that goes along the back to cover that up. It's very flimsy. Stuff gets down in there, it gets covered in algae grows inside the cracks of it, it gets nasty and gross. But the polycarbonate lids, they cover the whole tank. They go all the way to the back, all the way to the front. You got a little hole here to pick up on it to lift the lid or to put food through. And then right back here in the corner I just cut out a little square to run airline through, which is running my sponge filter. So that's going to allow you to keep a lot more heat in the tank if you're running a heated aquarium. It's not going to let as much dissipate out, but it still has enough opening in it to allow for gas exchange. So I'm going to take some measurements here. I'm going to be building one for my 5-gallon tanks. There's no lights on these tanks right now, but if you look, the lids that are on these are the cheap plastic ones. And if you look into the tank, you can't really see the fish right now, but if I pull the lid off, it gets a little bit brighter in there, and then I can run lights if I want to. So I'm going to make polycarbonate lids for this, and it'll be a lot better than these black plastic ones. Okay, so the only information you're going to need to know to be able to make a lid for this is how long it is. So get out the tape measure. Bump it up there. Okay, so we're looking at about 15.5 inches would be the maximum length. You could probably go a little bit shorter if you wanted to. This lid itself is actually only 15 3/8, so that's probably the size we're going to go with. And then front to back, it is 7 3/4. So 15.5, 15 3/8 by 7 1/4, or 7 3/4. Yep, 7 3/4. Cut out a piece of polycarbonate that size, and that's it. So let's head out to the garage and I'll show you how to cut them. Alright guys, we're out in the garage, and this here is a sheet of polycarbonate. It is about 1/8 of an inch thick. This sheet was 4 feet wide here and 8 feet long. But I've made a bunch of lids out of it already, so it's shorter now. It's only about 4 by 4, and then I've got this little piece here that's left over. Something like this runs about $100 to $120 for a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, which is a little expensive up front. But out of a 4 by 8 sheet, if you're cutting lids for a 20-gallon high or a 55-gallon tank or something like that, you're going to be able to make about 16 lids out of one sheet. So if you're doing 16 lids, that puts the cost per lid around $7 or $8 a lid, instead of costing $16 to $20 for a glass lid that doesn't even cover your whole tank at a pet store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little piece right here, and I'm going to cut 3 pieces out of it that'll fit those 5.5-gallon tanks, and we'll cut them down to size. Once we cut them down to size, I take a drill with a 1-inch paddle bit, and then I find the center of the overall length, and then I go 2 inches in from the edge and drill a hole, and that'll be the feeding hole. and then I'll just pick a corner in the back and cut a 1 inch to a 1.5 inch square out of it to be able to run the airline tubing in, and that's it. That's how you make these lids. So what I was going to use is and this is what I normally use, is a circular saw. But I noticed the other day while I was making lids that with this saw, let me see if I can show you. You can see how this has a tooth on it, this one has a tooth on it, and this one is missing a tooth. Somehow I managed to break one of these carbide tooth off of here, and this no longer cuts through the polycarbonate or anything for that matter. It just binds and grabs a hold of it. So what I'm going to use to cut these today is going to be the compound miter saw. I can almost get this to operate like a table saw because I can get the saw spinning and then run it back and forth. So I don't really recommend cutting them this way. I'm comfortable handling this piece of equipment. I would much rather be using a circular saw, but for the size of the lids we're cutting, this will work fine. So I'm going to show you how to measure these out, and then we'll cut them. So here we go. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see because of the glare from the lights up above me, but I have measured out the 15 3/8 by 7 3/4 size that we need. And actually this piece of polycarbonate is perfect for 3 5.5 gallon tanks, because I can get 2 lids here and the third lid here. It just so happened that this measured up absolutely perfectly. Probably one of the biggest lucky chances I've ever had. So I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the saw, and I'm going to cut this one off first, and then I'll cut this one off, and then I'll show you guys how to drill the holes and everything in it. The reason I'm able to draw on this is you can kind of see that there is a plastic layer on this, so you can make any markings or anything you need to cut on top of here, and then it just peels off, and then it's crystal clear. So we'll go over to the saw and cut these out. Alright, so I realized I'm going to have a hard time holding the camera and cutting this at the same time, so I just kind of have the camera set up over there. I hope it doesn't fall over, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this. So basically, this saw isn't big enough to cut all the way through this in one shot because it sticks out about that far past the end. So I'm going to cut into it as far as I can, and then we're going to turn it around and finish the cut, and it's basically that's how it's going to have to happen, which is why I would rather use the circular saw over this, but this will work. So we'll go ahead and cut it and see what happens. Now, I highly suggest wearing safety glasses when cutting stuff like this. I don't know where mine are, so I'm not going to. Do as I say, not as I do. Alright, so this is the factory edge right here. So being that it's the factory edge, that's going to give me the flattest side against the backstop here. And then I'll be able to line up my cut how I want it. And I want that cut to fall right on the line that I made. Okay. Alright guys, here we go. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't cut all the way through it, so we're going to flip it around and finish the cut. basically going to do the same thing for this piece. I will cut through as much of it as I can and then flip it over and finish the cut. There's the other two lids. So now what we're going to do is I'm not going to peel this plastic off of here yet. I'm going to drill the holes through it and then I will peel the plastic off. And we'll get the corners cut and that'll be it. That'll be the lids. So let's go over and drill the holes in it and then we'll come back over here and we'll cut the corners and that's it. Okay, so what I've done here is I've laid them on two boards and I've drawn a dot right here which is in the dead center from left to right and about 1.5 inches to 2 inches back, you know, wherever I felt like it was a good position to be able to feed from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand on top of them so they don't move, put a little weight on them, and then I'm going to drill through that with this 1-inch paddle bit and that'll give me the holes to feed from. Okay, so we got the drill. So now, without moving the sheets, all I'm doing this for is to apply pressure so that the sheets do not move. Okay, that's all 3 sheets. So now as you can see, we get a nice clean hole through all 3 sheets. So we're going to come back over to the saw and we're going to cut the corners out of all of them. And then we can peel the plastic layer off at the top and the back and you have nice clear polycarbonate sheets that you've cut into lids for your aquariums. So let's head back over to the saw. Alright, so we're back at the saw here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the sheets that I've just drilled holes in and you want to choose one of these back corners. It doesn't really matter which one. But you're going to choose those back corners and you will then take, I'll do this one. Take and cut about 1 inch to 1.25 inches out of the corner and that'll be where you can run airline tubing through. So it doesn't really matter which corner you do. So for this in particular one, I'm going to do this back left hand corner. So now it doesn't really matter which corner you do because you can just flip it over and then it's on the other side. So I'm actually going to do this corner. far away. Okay. Just break that off. So now you got your little notch in the corner there. We'll go ahead and peel off the layers of plastic here. And there you go. Nice clear sheets of polycarbonate that we've made into lids for those 5.5 gallon aquariums. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these other two, and then we'll go back inside and I'll show you how they fit. Alright, we are back out in the fish room right now. We got all the lids cut and I have them laying up here. So we're going to go ahead and pull this lid off of this 5 gallon tank. Set it over here. Grab the new polycarbonate lid. Just going to push the air line over, get this lined up, and bam, there we go. Cheap and easy polycarbonate lid. You can see down through the top, super clear. Now, mind you, this guy here, he is in quarantine. This is not his permanent home. His home is in my 125. He was gold and started turning black, which I know is not normal for goldfish, so we decided to quarantine him just in case something was going on. Overall, he seems healthy, so he might be going back relatively soon. It might have just been he's changing colors to a darker gold. I don't know. Never heard of that before, but keeping an eye on him. Back to the lid. Lid fits good. Secure. You know, you get your feeding hole, you got your hole for your airline, and that tank is overall much brighter now because this light that's up in the ceiling here is protruding down through. You can see the substrate, you can see it's a lot brighter than that tank. It's still not lit by its own light, but it is definitely brighter by ambient light. So I'm going to go ahead and install the rest of these three and come back to you in a second. Okay guys, all three polycarbonate lids are on the tanks. They all fit pretty good, as you can see. All tanks are just a little bit brighter now. And overall, I think they came out good. Good quality, lightweight, very strong. And that's pretty much it, guys. Okay guys, that's pretty much it for this video. A couple things I want to touch on is polycarbonate is expensive up front. For that big sheet, it's like $120 for the whole sheet. You can buy it in smaller pieces to where you can make it per aquarium. I think the small sheets that you can buy that will fit a 20 gallon like this or a 55 gallon, you will have to cut it down because I believe they're 30 inches overall, so you'll just have to cut 6 inches off and then it'll fit right on top of this tank. I believe they are about $15 to $16, which is how much a glass lid costs at the pet store approximately. They're about the same, but the benefit of this is it covers the entire top and not just 3/4 of it. So in my opinion, these lids are way better. They're a lot lighter, and if you accidentally drop them or sit on them or whatever, they won't break. I know a lot of people pull their glass lids and they put them on the couch and somebody sits on them accidentally, or the hinge that's in the middle gets old and brittle and it slips out and drops the glass on the floor and they break. This won't do that. It's one solid piece. It's plastic. It's heavy duty. They won't break. So you can get them in smaller pieces. You don't have to buy a big sheet. The other thing is, you'll notice when you go and see these sheets in the store, acrylic is about half the price. You can make them out of acrylic also. The only thing is, acrylic over time does absorb water. So as you have an air stone bubbling up to the top and it's getting the acrylic wet, acrylic will absorb water a little bit, and over time it will start to bow. So all you would have to do really with that is flip it over and let it bow back down, and you'll just have to do that over the life of the acrylic. I chose polycarbonate because that's just one little tiny inconvenience I don't want to deal with. But I think that's it. So that's all for this video, guys. Leave a like and a comment. Let me know if you like this video. Let me know if you want to see more content. Subscribe. You know, that's always good. And you can see the rest of my content. You can see my fish. I'll do fish room updates and stuff like that. But for right now, that's all, guys. I will see you in the next video.